Well, aloha kakahiaka. Good morning, everyone. I hope you made it through. We switched our time. Actually, for if you're on the mainland, the time is the same. But for us, we had to switch to 10 a.m. Hawaii time because of the daylight savings time, or I should say the non-daylight savings time that we do in Hawaii. But welcome, welcome, welcome. We got a great lineup for you today. So got some interesting things for you. And by the way, if you're watching this after the fact, there's chapters we got YouTube chapters, so you can kind of click to the section that you want. But some interesting stuff. We got some Hawaii news to start, and there's been a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit on the in the real estate industry. It's causing quite a shakeup, and we got Dylan who's going to share what's going on with that. We got market updates. We're going to hear from Maui and the Big Island, hopefully Oahu as well. And of course, your questions. We got a few lined up, but I'm going to take your questions, of course, first if you're watching us live. And we're going to go over some diamonds and deals, some great inspirational properties, and finally close up with some great motivational thoughts. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to warm up. We warm up these microphones. We start the show a few minutes earlier, just to kind of get the mics working, make sure the audio is good, give YouTube and those guys a chance to distribute. Why don't we kind of go counterclockwise here? Let's go with Dylan and then Heidi. Dylan, what's going on, buddy? What's the shirt, and how's the Big Island this morning? On by the way, on Veterans Day. Happy Veterans Day.
Thank you. Yes. Well, today is the celebrated Veterans Day, but today is also a very significant day. It is the Marine Corps birthday. So that's a big celebration amongst active and former Marines. And one of the little known facts about that is it's the only armed service that was born in a bar. So it was born in a bar in Philadelphia the year before the country was founded. So that's a fun fact about that.
That is some awesome history. My dad is a Marine.
Ton Tavern is the bar it was conceived at.
Now, Dylan, there's a different yell. There's a different yell between the Army is somebody does hua and someone does wa. I'm not too sure. Can you expand on what this is, since it's Veterans Day anyway?
So the Army is hua. The Marines are ura, and then the Navy is huya. So it's
all right.
Slight variations of the same thing. And I don't know what the Air Force does. The Air Force just sits in the air conditioning, and they don't yell too much.
They don't yell because they're up in the air, man. They've got the oxygen that they're trying to get a hold of. Good, cool, man. Let's move over to Heidi. Heidi, how are you doing this morning? What's the coffee, and how's Maui hanging?
Yeah, I mean, we just keep on keeping on here, moving forward the best we can. I feel like I've had my coffee hours ago because we're starting the show an hour later. The mainland all went over to daylight savings time, but we just stayed the same as we do over here. So yeah, it's already been a busy work morning. But as far as the community, I mean, there's a lot of community service projects going on right now that I've had the privilege of being involved in, and we're just kind of still in this weird transition phase, especially in West Maui, where people are trying to figure out what to do, how to pick up the pieces, how to move on. I mean, Lahaina, eventually it's going to rebuild, it's going to become something, but I mean, realistically, that's years out at this point. So the question's kind of, what to do right now.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stories about that that we caught about the many years that it's going to take for Maui to fully recover. Heidi, I wanted to mention there was some of our friends in the Islander Ohana, Scott and his wife. They just moved to Maui. Interestingly enough, right after the Lahaina disaster, they moved there. And they took a photo, which I kind of that I wanted to kind of share here with everybody. This was kind of a cute setup. So here's it was kind of really fun because it was here's of course Heidi is in the middle. You got Scott and his wife in the picture, and their comment was it felt like we were that we met up with a movie star after watching her on the show all of this time. So I kind of want to give a good shout out to Scott and his wife. Good. I'm glad that you guys made it. They're in Maui. They're doing their thing, and they are following the Islander Ohana program, which is kind of really fun. So I kind of want to give that shout out. Thanks, Heidi, for the update. Ashley, glad you made it. Good to see you, Ashley. What's happening? How's things in your neck of the woods there on the windward side? Give us the update.
Well, it's Veterans Day, so thank you for your service, Dylan. There's no school today, obviously, so I'm sorry. My daughter may pop her cute little head in here every once in a while, but it's fantastic. I'm actually looking forward to go do something fun with her today and get all of our work done, prepare for open houses this weekend, and then maybe take her to the beach and enjoy a beautiful day.
We are a family-friendly show, Ashley. So you want to bring, you want to give your daughter some kind of screen time. Give her her exposure into the silver screen. Feel free. No hesitation here. We're all good. We are a family. Islander Ohana, right? We're a family-friendly show. So
I don't think I'll have a choice, to be honest. I think that she is a showgirl. She loves a performance. So whenever she has the opportunity.
I think it's one of the hallmarks of the new generation where the new generation is the performative. They become very performative. It's the performative generation.
I did see like a historic timeline of like every 30 years, sort of a trend in just the, societal differences. And this is for, this 30 years, they do say this is going to be more of the arts era. So we need to stop being so harsh on them and judging them because, our eras are a bit different and more into the grind and such. I think yours is the liberation era right, Peter, where you guys were about freedoms and liberation.
Well, I'm from the boomers, and of course we ruined everything. So we screwed everything up. So that's our claim to fame. That's our claim to fame. The boomers screwed everything up completely. So it was yeah.
I just came back. I just came back from a conference this week, and one of the sessions was about I think it was called "If You Can't Text Me, Don't Bother" or something like that, and it was about dealing with millennial home buyers and how their preferred method of communication is text messaging or Instagram messaging or any type of messaging, right? And how as real estate professionals we need to adapt to that in order to best serve their needs and communicate with them. And because there's the real estate the largest generation in real estate are definitely boomers or above, right? I mean, it's an older industry, and so now that the millennial generation is coming into their peak home buying years, that's just a shift that folks are going to have to adjust to and adapt to.
You have to communicate with people using the medium that they want to communicate with. I'm right with you on that. I have a couple of clients, one of which is a hardcore millennial, and she's amazing. She's extraordinarily effective and great, just everything. And man, just you might as well drag her, make her crawl over cracked glass before she'll take a phone call. Right. Does not want to, no phone call under any circumstances. I don't think we've spoken in years. Everything is done through, we use Slack. So everything is done through the Slack channel. Everything, specs, software, just the whole enchilada is done.
But at least you adapted to her, and like some people won't. I think for
us, this is kind of intuitive. I mean, we're some of us are kind of in that generation, but one of the big recommendations, which a lot of people was an aha moment for them, was it's not that you can't call them, but you have to text them first and make sure that it's okay to call them, right? And then you can make the phone call. You don't call out of the blue. Like that's taboo. It's just randomly calling. So you want to check in first, make sure they're available. Maybe say, can you talk in 30 minutes? And then once you get permission, then it's okay to call. So
I'm sorry. I just think that's so silly. It's an ick.
Hey, let's hear from the folks who are watching. What's your perspective on the call? Is it text only? Do you want to get a text message before you get the call? When calls come in, do you take them, etc.? I'd love to kind of hear from you folks. And by that, I want to say hello to Judy Weber, a awesome Islander Ohana. Boy, Judy, you're not only your alumni, you're like an Islander Ohana veteran. Judy's like, she's always there. She always kind of shows up at our Island or Ohana meetings, and she is moving to the Big Island. So that's really awesome, amazing. Judy, what's your perspective? Look, gang, I'll tell you what mine is. I have a couple things as far as phone calls go. I don't like unplanned phone calls either. And for me, for sure the rule is if a call comes in and it's not in my contact folder, I don't care who the hell you are, you're going to voicemail. That's it. You're not in the contact folder, you're going to voicemail. And if it's that important, you'll leave a voicemail for me, then I'll call you back. Yeah, I get it. All right. Hey, I think we covered everybody. Let's why don't we move on over here? Let's kind of hit some news. And so there's a big topic, gang. There's a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit, but we're going to save that for later. Best for last. But Harley has joined us. Harley McWaters. Aloha from Holualoa today. Awesome. How is your day at Holualoa? I'd love to know about that. Thank you for joining us. All right, that's
my hood. That's like 10 minutes away.
10 minutes away, man. Holualoa. Awesome. Hey, well, let's talk about the weather later. I'm curious about that. All right, next slide, please. All right. Hey, gang. So a bunch of stories over here that I think that you might enjoy. First of all, there's Senator Brian Schatz, our senator in Hawaii here, had a quote that is getting some coverage. Is that he said a lot of people are going to be forced to leave Maui, and he's trying to prevent that. In terms of, there are serious concerns about Maui's economy and how things are going to fare, and it's just not, we've talked about this before in the show many times. It can take a long time before things come back up to speed, and so there are some concerns. So. It's going to be interesting to kind of see how that goes on. And Dylan, the Kona coffee looks like they're going to do a healthy crop. Actually, I don't know if I should bring this out for Dylan's thing or for Heidi's thing. Heidi, we're going to have looks like we're having a healthy Kona coffee crop, which is going to be kind of fun. We had a wildfire. On Oahu. That took several days to get it under control. I wouldn't say people were freaking out, but people were really kind of, quite concerned about it. As you can tell, we sort of, the whole state kind of has some sense of PTSD from the Lahaina disaster. And so, but thankfully, hey, Mark, I'm curious, Mark Whitehill's joined us. Mark, you folks are in you're out there. You have Kaimana Beach. Awesome. Dude. And you came in on the show. That's impressive. How was that, Mark? You folks live in the Mililani area. How was what's your anxiety levels with the wildfire that was in Mililani? I'd be interested in knowing about that. Oahu prices, that there was a story here that they've stabilized, if not inched up a little bit. There was a little inch up on the Oahu home prices. So Ashley, I'd like to kind of hear more about that. And then finally, you may have caught this. It's kind of it's making its way through. It started through social media, and it's the pink pond. There's a pink pond. I'm gonna check this out, gang. So This is not a retouched photo. This is an aerial photo that was taken. That big bubble gum colored that's a big bubble gum colored body of water on Maui, and it is pink. And so the scientists are figuring out, well, what the hell's going on over here with this thing? Looks like a preliminary analysis suggests that the color change appears to be the result of a single-celled organism called halobacteria. The scientists are saying that this is a salt-loving organism, that the right things happen at the right time, and this thing is pink as can be. It is a bubble gum color. Curious if you folks did you folks see this on social media? Have you caught this on the news? I saw a CBS story about this as well. I don't know if this is becoming. All right. So, hey, we got that big story that Dylan's going to lead us off on. I want to kind of say a few folks that have given us some shout outs here. So the coffee is not burnt today. Harley, it's always good to not have burnt coffee. It's always good to not have burnt coffee. And hey, Michael's back with us. Michael, a lot of good. Fine with calls from those I know. I am fine with the text. If I do not know the caller, it goes to voicemail. There you go. That's it, Michael. You and I are on the same page. So there you go. All right. So there's a big deal going on, and I know nothing about it. Well, very little about it, other than what Dylan had told me about it. So Dylan, why don't you lay us on here? There's been some press. I don't know if you folks have heard about this, but multi-billion-dollar lawsuits that are being hit against some large real estate brokerages. Dylan, what's going on, and why should people care about this, especially if you're looking to buy a home?
So, I guess starting from the beginning, right? The context of the lawsuit is that home sellers over the last like 20 years, they created a class action lawsuit and basically sued the large legacy brokerages, Anywhere, which is the parent company of all the franchise brands like Coldwell Banker and Century 21, and most of the common brands that you're aware of, Keller Williams, Remax, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services of America, and basically said that they conspired with the National Association of Realtors, so they were also a named defendant in this, to inflate commissions or keep them high. And part of the complaint was that sellers should not have been forced to pay for a buyer's commission as part of their closing costs. And so, long story short, there's arguments on both sides. I'm sure we're going to get into this and have some back and forth discussion. But this has been going on for a while. The hearing happened, the trial happened a couple of weeks ago, and I think it's been about 2 weeks now since the verdict came down. But it was a jury trial, and the jury did side with the plaintiffs and awarded a $1.78 billion in damages to the plaintiffs, basically saying that these real estate companies have to pay back the buyer side commissions that were paid for by sellers. And so there's a lot to dig into this, and we can get into the details, but it very much disrupts the normal flow of the market that we've known for 100 years, right? I mean, some people I guess don't understand the way real estate commissions work and the way real estate professionals are compensated, and basically what we do as agents is we get a seller client and we show them a listing contract, and we talk about the services that we provide, and we negotiate a commission with them. Normally it's 5-6% is kind of the normal standard kind of commission that is negotiated, and in most cases that commission is split between the buyer and seller broker. So the seller's agent, the seller's brokerage has this agreement with the seller that they're going to pay 5 or 6%, and then there's another line in that listing contract that says X amount of that percentage will be paid to the brokerage that brings the buyer. In most cases, it's split 50-50, but all of this is discussed and negotiated with the seller at the time of a listing contract being signed. And that's one of the kind of misconceptions, or I think misrepresentations, in this whole discussion and this lawsuit, is that nobody's ever forced to pay that commission. I mean, this is a clear discussion that anybody who's ever sold a home or have dealt with a listing brokerage, this discussion happens. It should happen clearly. It should be, very upfront. It's very clearly spelled out in a contract what that looks like. And so the contention on the sell side was that they were, not given the opportunity to negotiate, or they were forced to pay a buyer's commission. They shouldn't have been able to do that. And so the contention is that sellers should not pay. The short story is sellers should not have to pay a buyer's agent to bring a buyer, and that has a lot of implications which we can dig into, but that's kind of the crux of the matter and what has played out.
So let me ask you this, and then maybe we can. I'm certain that actually I'm pretty confident that you've kind of have been tracking this, and Heidi, that you've been tracking as well. This is all kind of important. Here's what I would like to know. I am your average person that let's say let's assume that I've sold a home. I've sold at least one home, and I know if anyone's ever sold a home, you talk to an agent. You pay, you know that it's typically a 6% commission, and typically they tell you that they split the commission. You may or may not know that they split that commission with the buyer, but you certainly know that you pay a commission to agents. We all, let's just put that as the common knowledge. Here's what I want to know from the average person in the street. What do I need to know now? Are things going to change if I'm going to go buy something? What do you see kind of changing? Why don't we go to Ashley first, and then Heidi, and then circle to Dylan. Ashley, what do you think is, I don't know if you've ever played with Chat GPT, but you could say, explain this to me like I'm 10. So Ashley, explain it to me like I'm 10. What do you see as a potential change that I'm going to have to undergo as a buyer? So when I approach you and I want to, hey, Ashley, I'm looking for a home on Oahu, blah, blah, blah. What's going to change for me?
I think a lot is going to change for the buyer, because at the moment right now, buyer doesn't have to pay for their representation with a dollar amount, and they might have to pay through a lack of a knowledgeable agent and not having the best negotiation skills, advocating for them, but you can't really put a dollar amount to that. However, when it comes to the physical dollar, a buyer already has to drum up the cost for a down payment and closing costs, and now they'll additionally have to come up with the funds for their realtor's commission. And a lot of people probably won't want to do that, and so they'll self-represent, or they'll ask agents to negotiate, or they'll pay a flat fee. And realtors are accustomed to working extremely hard with some buyers. Sometimes it takes years to get them into a home, and they're often having to work with dozens of buyers at a time, and offer the highest level of service. And so naturally, I think an agent, it's going to be challenging for them to steer their attention towards things that are going to continue putting food on their table for their family, right? And so I think that that's going to create some ethics concerns down the line, because you have a fiduciary responsibility to the parties that you're working with. And if you have one client who's willing to pay you a high percentage versus another client who's willing to pay a flat fee, how are agents going to navigate that? What's that landscape going to look like? And then also, what is that process going to look like for you as a buyer? Because the agent on the other side that's representing the seller, they're getting their compensation. And if they're having to work directly with you as a buyer who does not understand the process, does not understand the etiquette, does not understand the contract, doesn't understand a lot of things, now where does that put the liability on the listing agent? Are they going to be showcasing representation? At what point do they uphold their responsibility to their client without showcasing a dual, representation situation? And how is that going to affect their representation with their seller as well? I think a lot of people are gung-ho to jump on a bandwagon of stating realtors get paid so much and do so little. All it is selling sunset and showing homes. But I think people have to understand too that the average realtor nationally sells 2.5 homes per year. Most agents don't actually make a lot of money at all. This is side income for them, or they're barely getting by, and they're doing a lot. And only, I think there's a 78 or 80 something % fail rate in realtors who can make it. So you're going to see a lot less quality agents in the field. You're going to see people, I think, not put as much effort into negotiating for their client's behalf because they're not getting compensated to do the work. I think that you're going to have litigation on the listing side of transactions, because you're going to have blurred lines on representation from the other party. I think buyers are going to have a hard time affording good representation. So you're going to see a drastically different experience for buyers across the board, depending on who can afford what. So I think that, again, the people with the least amount of money are going to be the most affected at the end of the day, because they don't have the funds to be able to afford probably great representation.
Well, I can tell that this is going to be a big issue, an important issue to you, Ashley, because that was a good exposition in detail. Grab those clips, Dylan, and republish that stuff, because that is. Thank you, Ashley, for sharing. Heidi, tell it to me like I'm 10. What is going to be? If I'm looking to buy a house, what do you see what's going to change for me potentially as a buyer?
Well, immediately, I don't think much is going to change, especially in my market. I understand this verdict is being appealed, and that's probably going to last a few more years. So I don't think we're going to see big changes right away, especially in the Maui market, where we do have a lot of off-island buyers that are not familiar with this market. I think the whole suit comes down to clear communication and better communication. Agents should not be telling sellers, this is the standard commission, this is what you have to pay. Commissions have always been negotiable. They are negotiable. However, it is an incentive-based business. If I want to sell my house and there's 5 other houses that are offering this incentive for a buyer's agent to bring a buyer, and I'm offering a much lower incentive, I mean, it's gonna hurt your ability perhaps to sell that property. Um, I think immediately it definitely puts agents and people in the industry just aware of the importance of getting a buyer agency agreement in writing with the buyer. How I have worked in the past with buyer's agents is because it has been so typical that there's commissions offered by sellers to buyer's agents is, I'll often work for a buyer for months and years and not get paid. And my incentive in working for free for so long is that I know eventually when the buyer buys, my broker will be compensated and I'll be compensated through that. So yeah, potentially it could change the industry somewhat in the future. I don't think anything's going to change immediately. But the people that are going to be hurt the most are the first-time home buyers and people that don't really have the money, and they're going to have to choose between either getting good representation or maybe not having representation. So I think that's really unfortunate. This would really serve the public in any way. So anyway, we'll see what happens. But the industry is always changing. That's what keeps it fun.
That is for sure. Dylan, before we move on, I want to bring some shout outs there for some people who have been commenting. I want to recognize them really quick. First of all, Auntie Joan is with us. Welcome back, Auntie Joan. Good to see you. Always glad to have you part of our Ohana watching. I talked to Mark about the anxieties, and this is kind of what Mark and his family live near the Mililani area. Mililani had those wildfires. He goes, yeah, our anxiety level has been running in the 2 to 4 range. I'm assuming, Mark, that's on a scale of 1 to 5. So 2 to 4 range seems to be under control, and I don't think it would head our way, but you nailed it. Lahaina PTSD is real. Yeah, that is definitely what I've noticed. I don't know if you folks have caught this, but we're getting red flag events now. I never had red flag warnings ever on my phone. Now I'm getting red flag warnings, storm warnings, etc. I think the Lahaina. So maybe the silver lining on the Lahaina side will be that we'll be a bit more careful. We have a couple comments on this issue so far. Sue jumped in. Thanks, Sue, for joining us through Dylan's channel. Buying a house without adequate representation can be the most expensive mistake of one's life. This is going to be interesting, gang, because all of you that have bought homes see the value of having a really, really good, or at least I'm assuming you've seen the value of having a really good, qualified, experienced realtor working for you, and you also know as the buyer, up until now, you haven't quote paid them anything per se, outright, like writing a check out. So it's and I'm sure that you've all had that experience. It's important to have a good one. Michael chimed in. If a seller agent does not pay the buyer agent commission, the buyer has the option to include it in the offer. Yeah, I think that seems to be, certainly that'll be the case. But again, Michael, I think, if I'm a buyer and I'm like, okay, the house is, $500,000. And then I'm like, yeah, did you want it? Because you got to pay the additional fee. I'm not too sure how that's all going to fly, but that's kind of weird.
And just to chime in on that too, you have to have the property appraised for whatever that additional cost that you're going to add onto your offer. So say if it's 500,000 and you're going to offer 520,000 to have your agent compensation, that property has to appraise for that 520,000. But more so too is I think that there's just a lack of education on what people think that the realtor keeps of the commission as well. So if you have 6% commission, which if your agent can't negotiate a 6% listing agreement, they can't negotiate, their own commissions, how well do you think they're going to negotiate on the sale of your property? But furthermore, when say you split that 50-50 with the other side, the 3% goes to that brokerage. Depending on what brokerage you're with, they take 20 to 50% of that 3% that you get. And then from there, you have to put taxes away. So 30% for taxes, you have state, federal, self-employment, and in Hawaii, GET tax. In addition to that, if you're a good agent, you also have to have marketing expenses put back. And then if it's a listing, you're paying for marketing, staging, photos, whatever you're paying to market their property as well. So I think people have this vision of how much people get paid. And then once they understand how it's broken down, usually when they get into real estate, they're like, I did not realize that. I thought I was going to get 10K and go buy Louis Vuitton. They didn't realize you actually have to operate as a business.
People only see the income side. They never see the expense and effort side. People, that's typically Dylan. I'm going to get to you in a second. There's a few more things I have to catch up on. Paul, a long time viewer, viewer says, thanks for all your advice, but after much research, I decided that Hawaii is not for me. I prefer lots of city amenities, but I will miss hearing from you discuss 800K starter homes. Paul, you will be missed. You will be missed. And if you're looking for city amenities, Hawaii is not the place. So I'm glad you realized that. It's you're not paying the $1 million starter home is not for city amenities, man. It's for the natural tropical beauty. It's not about the city. So good thing you found out about that, Paul. Good on you that you discovered that. You will be missed. I'm especially going to miss your funny snarky your funny snarky comments will be missed. So maybe you'll stick with us just for that, Paul. I hope you will. Michael says, yep. I feel like a first time buyer looking at Hawaii, but this would be my 6th. So Michael, I'm assuming you're kind of up to speed on kind of what's going on over here. I'd be curious about if you want to pay an extra fee for a buyer's commission, or how would you want that to work? All right, we've moved around. Dylan, bring this home for us. Bring this home for us. Give us the Dylanism. Give us the Dylanism of what's going on. Where do you see this going? What's kind of happening? What should people be aware of? What have we missed?
The first thing I think that everybody has to understand about this is this was a civil lawsuit, right? Not a criminal lawsuit. And so the way the legal system works, and this is a big misunderstanding I've been communicating with my team and a lot of other agents, is that there was no edict from the court saying that you may or may not do something, or this is now illegal or not illegal. It's not like the Supreme Court saying you can't segregate schools anymore, right? That's not what this was. This was a civil lawsuit with a class action of consumers saying that these companies did us wrong, and the court awarded them damages based upon that. And so what the industry is going to have to do is decide going forward as an industry, and every company, every brokerage is going to have to decide on this differently, is how do we change our business practices in order to eliminate or reduce our liability in the future, our civil liability in the future, because there's already a bunch of copycat lawsuits that have been filed against other brokerages in other states. And so people are seeing the monies, they see the dollar signs flashing. And so attorneys are filing lawsuits all over the place on behalf of sellers. And so that's something that, like Heidi said, it's going to take a while for this to change. And it's, at the end of the day, what we're doing is not illegal, right? That's not what was decided in this case. But we're going to have to be better at communicating, like Ashley said, about what it means to pay a commission, how that works. The whole issue, this is a very big, to me, consumer protection issue. This was a very easy case to win in a court with a jury trial, because the jury is going to be made up of consumers, and consumers are going to say, hey, I don't want to pay any extra money. I'm going to go with the guys who are complaining about paying too much money. Where if you have a judge, an appellate judge, look at this and really look at the details of the way the real estate market works and the way representation works and the very important consumer protection issues that surround this, I think you would have a different perspective, because like was mentioned previously by Heidi and Ashley, the person this hurts the most, there's almost a discriminatory factor to this, is that low income first time home buyer, that VA buyer, that buyer that doesn't have extra money to pay for representation. And this is really, if you think about it, here's a mindset shift, right, in the industry, is the industry has always been built on a pay it forward mentality, right? So when you buy your first home, you don't have to come out of pocket. And it's not true that a buyer doesn't pay a commission, because a buyer is coming up with the money. The commission is built into the market value of that house, right? So the seller, yes, it's on the side of the seller's settlement statement showing where those expenses go. But at the end of the day, the buyer is bringing all the money to the table, right? They're borrowing the 30-year mortgage to buy that home. The money is coming from the buyer, given to the seller, and the seller is then paying commission. So in effect, it really is a split cost, right? Because it's built into the market value that the buyer is paying and the seller is receiving, and then it gets distributed to the brokerages. But it's a pay it forward system, because when you buy your first home, you get the benefit of not having to come out of pocket for representation. And then when you sell that home, that's when you pay for it. And then when you buy the next one, you get it again, where you get the opportunity to get representation without a direct cost or an out-of-pocket expense. And then when you sell, then you pay it on behalf of your buyer. So the system works. It makes sense if you look at it in that sense. And the funny thing about a lot of these plaintiffs that were cross-examined in this trial was some of them bought 5 homes and sold 4, right? So every time they bought, they benefited from the system, and then now they're saying that the system is unfair. So I was wondering, are they going to go back and pay back all of their buyer commissions that they benefited from when they bought their 4 homes, right? So it's there's a lot to it. It's a deep issue, but at the end of the day, we really got to look at it from what's best for the consumer, what protects the consumer, and if in effect we stop allowing sellers to pay buyer commissions and buyers have to come to the table either unrepresented or dual agency where they use the seller's agent. I would love to see what the lawsuits will be 5 years from now, when buyers on the wide will be railroaded, because if they don't have any representation and you're working with a smart listing agent, they're going to get the best possible deal, best possible terms for their client, and you're basically going into a gunfight with a spatula, and you're going to totally lose that negotiation. And then a couple of years down the road, when you find out that things weren't properly disclosed, or you were just treated unfairly in the terms because you didn't know any better, there's going to be a flood of new lawsuits on buyers' behalfs that were ill represented or misrepresented or unrepresented. So there's a lot of unintended consequences, like we like to talk about, right? With government decisions.
Lot going on over here. The unintended consequences are going to be interesting. I think I'm going to bring in Michael's comment here really quick. The exclusivity in MLS membership is what will need to be evaluated. It's effectively a cartel. We are going deep into the weeds now, Michael. Deep into the weeds. We should almost have like a separate, a separate giant conference meeting between like all the agents who want to talk about this. I think here's like, again, from the guy that's not in the industry, I could just tell you this. That's a really good point that Heidi brought up. First of all, that it may take a long time before anything substantial gets implemented that's going to really affect things. But let's leave that one aside. I could just tell you this: with change, it's going to suck, but with change is where opportunities lie, right? Opportunities lie when change comes around. And of course, there's it can go like completely south, or there could be some innovative, thinking, not open-minded, but some people who are going to kind of look at this from a whole new perspective and come up with some kind of a better approach. Ashley, you look like there's been something that you've been dying to kind of spit out. Is there anything that you wanted to kind of say? I'm getting the vibe that Ashley wants to say, she's bursting with something that she wants to say.
No, I have allergies right now, so I'm itchy.
Okay.
But so I'm uncomfortable. But okay. I'm just dittoing everything Dylan says. It's so true. I've been hearing a lot of that as well, the perspective of, you've been in a cozy position as a buyer getting into properties, and now when you have to sell them, you're disgruntled, and it is a pay it forward system that's been working. And something that I think another perspective that is important too is a lot of the perspective that other countries don't have to pay this type of compensation, but other countries also don't have the same type of loan products that we have in the US as well. We have a lot of government funded loan products that offer really low entry costs to get into homeownership here in the US. And I think that is something not a lot of people have exposure to as well, that realtors sort of bring forthcoming to the buyer pool and to the market. And so there's a lot of different things that the US real estate economy has that other countries don't. So comparing those apples to apples, it's not. We have a more fruitful economy because of the way that the structure has been.
And I think it's important to also discuss this from the seller's standpoint, right? It sounds like this is like a good, sellers are going to save money, and we're talking about how buyers will be ill served if things change. But on the sell side, there's definitely a big cost to a seller in a couple of different ways. One being, if you're offering no incentive for agents to bring buyers, like I know my business is very buyer heavy. We do a lot of inbound buyer education and help buyers make the decision. One of the reasons we do this show, right, is to help inform them and guide them through the process of buying in Hawaii. And if you're a seller and you don't know, and this is a competitive advantage we have in our market, we all have in our markets, right? If we bring a buyer to a property and make an offer on a home, that listing agent is going to know that we don't work with crazy people that are unqualified, that are flaky, right? Like, we have a qualification process on the buyer side where you can trust if I bring you an offer. In most cases, it's going to be a legitimate buyer. We're going to have a smooth transaction. We're going to help through the process, all the complications, negotiating through inspections and all the different complications throughout the process. And so you could make your life very hard on the sell side by, one, limiting exposure to your home and good agents bringing solid buyers that are well qualified to purchase your home. And if you've ever done a for sale by owner, or you've dealt with a buyer who was unrepresented, the process can be very difficult because they don't know when their performance deadlines are. They don't respect the deadlines in the contract. They're not sure what exactly different things mean. And it can make the process a lot more stressful and potentially take a lot longer. So if you're a seller that really needs a smooth transaction because you gotta sell to buy somewhere else and move, you really want that process to be as clean and smooth as possible. And a good buyer's agent is going to bring you the best possible buyer to do that. Where if you're just going to leave it up to chance and every Tom, Dick, and Harry that just calls you off of Zillow, hoping, you have no idea what that buyer's actual, how serious they are, what their motivations are. I mean, those are all things that we will evaluate and help communicate to a seller to bring a deal together in the best, most positive way possible. So there's definitely some cost to sellers too.
There are going to be some changes. Go ahead, Ashley. Wait, you're muted.
For Michael's comment about the exclusivity and the MLS membership, I think that it's important to touch on here because that's a valid point, and I can see how people might have that perspective. It's something that we pay to be a part of, and the general public doesn't have to make those payments, but more so, there is more accessibility to. You need a hub. You need to have direction. If you look for rentals, for example, people call us and they say, hey, we need help with rentals. Rentals are extremely hard to lock down because you have very few that are actually in the MLS. A lot of these are individually marketed on every property manager's website. There isn't one specific hub that they're required to put all of the data and information in. And so you could have I have to contact 10 property managers, and that's still only going to give you access to a very small pool of rentals that are available. And so having one hub that everyone is required to put their information on, it is distributed for free to the public to hundreds of different third-party websites as well. And if anything, I would compare Cartel more to something like Zillow, because Zillow not only has everything that every MLS has, but they have additional off-market properties that the MLS does not entail. So I think that it is necessary in order to have accessibility and an equal chance to the buyer's market across the board. And if you didn't have that, it would be a complete free-for-all, just like commercial. And commercial is not heavily regulated. And it doesn't, because it's a B2B, it's a business-to-business transaction usually. And with residential real estate, it's to consumer, and it's really a consumer protection platform for the public. And I just can't imagine what it would be like if there wasn't one hub. It would be an absolute nightmare trying to find available properties.
Well, thank you, Ashley.
Data transparency is good for the consumer.
Yeah. Hey, gang, we need to move on. My eyes are rolling back into their sockets. We have beat this guy like a drum. We need to move on because I think there's changes coming, and it's going to be interesting to kind of see what's going to be the effect on the buyer. That's for sure. Lots of change, but with change comes opportunity. It'd be interesting to see who takes advantage of those opportunities. All right, let's move on. Alex has joined us. Alex is a member of the Islander Ohana. Welcome back, Alex. Good to see you, buddy. Glad to be here. And I just wanted to follow up. If you just joined us recently, we had a little chat about there was a wildfire in Mililani on Oahu, and we have one of our members who lives nearby, and there was like sort of PTSD going on. I mentioned, Auntie Jonas chimed in. Fire PTSD can happen no matter where you live. When I lived in Colorado Springs, an entire area called Mountain Shadows was destroyed by arson. We could see the flames and inhale smoke for months. Yeah, I mean, PTSD is real, man. PTSD is real. Hey, you know what? It is, boy, we have like we've burned through all of our time. We'll talk about this issue. Did you guys want to have any market updates? Let's do this. Let's make the market update kind of really, really short. Is there anything notable on the market that you want to talk about? Yeah, why don't we do this? Let's just go clockwise quickly. Heidi, if there's anything significant, if not, just kind of pass and we'll move on because we're kind of hitting our timeline. So market update. Heidi, is there anything on Maui that is notable that you want to report on Maui's market?
I mean, no big changes. Our market continues. I mean, the number of sales are lower, but sales are still happening. Just an idea, year to date on Maui, there's been 33% less closed sales this year compared to last year. Overall, on average, prices are up 3.2%. So the trend continues of kind of a lower level of activity, but prices are still pretty stable and strong.
Great. Thank you, Heidi. Dylan, you have a quick update for us?
Same on the Big Island. The interesting trend has been back in June, we had the peak in terms of number of sales on the island. We had 501 sales, and then it's been declining ever since. And so it was 429 in August, and then 393 in September, and then in October it was 369. So significantly less sales, 140 less sales than we were seeing earlier in the year. So the number of sales has declined. Inventory has not recovered. We're still like 1,800 total properties for sale on the island. And same as Heidi, median price is either right where it was, depending on homes, land, or condos, or a couple of percent up from last year. So prices are stable. Just inventory is low and activity is low. So it's a good time to get in as a buyer because there's not that much competition right now.
Interesting. Ashley, any quick updates for Oahu? There was that article about that price, a little bit of a price bump up. I don't know what else you want to add to that, Ashley.
I mean, yeah, from last month there was a small price bump up from $1,015,000 for single family homes. It bumped up to $1,050,000. $1,050,000 is actually pretty significant. That's for single family homes. However, there's fewer single family homes from this time last year, and there's more condo sales. For perspective, for the amount of sales per month, we aren't doing too bad. We're at 645 sales for October compared to January was 457 sales. If you go back, September was 652 sales. And that is low comparatively. So for example, in 2018, total number of sales was 787. In 2021, it was 1,034. Usually our slowest months are January, February. So this isn't super on par. Like we're okay overall for the number of sales. As far as the average median price, we're at 710 for single family and condos combined. And compared to January, that was at 670,000. So we're better, and we have a higher median sales price than 2021 this time of year for single families and condos combined.
Great, thank you, Ashley, for the update. So, hey, folks, look, if this has been like a Mambo real estate show, big time, which is what it's for. If you've got some questions, ask them now, whatever they may be. Ask us anything. Pop it in the chat so we can kind of hit it. Otherwise, we're going to be moving on. We got about 17 minutes or so to our show, and the next piece that we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about diamonds and deals. This has been the real estate intensive. This almost should be like this should give you like some course credits. Don't you guys get like course credits if you're like an agent? You have to kind of do your continuing education. We should take this video, block it out, and then send it as continuing education for realtors. Anyway, hey, look, let's hit diamonds and deals here, gang. This is the part where everybody brings their sort of favorite properties for the week. So let's open this one up with Heidi's. Heidi, what do you got here in Wailuku, Maui?
So this listing is dedicated to Paul. It's a $589,000 fixer-upper 6-bedroom home. It's marketed as needing extensive TLC. There's a good chance it needs to be torn down and rebuilt, but it is on a lot that's just a little under an acre in Wailuku. You can see from the aerial view at the bottom, you're not that far from the ocean, just a short drive. So great for a contractor or somebody who wants to a major fixer-upper, but only $589,000 for a single-family home on Maui. I mean, that is certainly a deal.
Paul, did you leave us? If you're still here with us, Paul, I think you've missed your calling, buddy. You have Heidi, you mentioned nearly an acre. That is a gigantic, relatively speaking, that is a gigantic lot, residential lot in Wailuku. That's huge. Yeah. So, hey, let's see here. Jesse says, wow, nice listing, Heidi. Well, there you go, Jesse. You know, this is who you want to get a hold of. You want to get a hold of Heidi while we still can for this 6-bedroom, 2.5 bath. Interesting. Thank you, Heidi. Great choice. I'm just dying to kind of see if he's still with if Paul is still with us. Paul, are you there? Are you there, Paul? Okay. What do we got over here? This one is this looks like Hawaii Kai, a nice white looking house. Ashley, what are we looking at here?
Actually just went live with this one yesterday. It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom. It has 2 parking. It's in Hawaii Kai. It's a highly sought after neighborhood. It's a walk up, so you're not in a high rise, which is super uncommon for under 700,000 in the neighborhood. It's been completely renovated. It has brand new ceilings, recessed lighting throughout the whole home, which is really well lit. You've got split ACs that were professionally cleaned. Really cute unit. The ensuite is huge for being a condo. It's the quarter of the whole unit. It's got these frosted glass windows, so you have a lot of privacy being on the ground floor unit. It's got an outside lanai area as well. It's very cute. I put a QR code there as well, so anybody who's watching can just scan that QR code to get access to the listing.
Yeah, that's really cool there. That's really cool of you to put the QR code. That's a nice innovation there. The QR codes are becoming more and more popular. Finally become more and more popular. Thank you, Ashley. All right, awesome. Dylan, what do we got over here? Oh man, all right, let's hear it.
They had the deal, so I guess I had to bring the diamond. This is
the diamond, yeah, no doubt.
Look at that sunset picture. This is a brand new build, just completed in 2022, and huge house, 4,000 square feet, 5 bedrooms, 5 baths. Not super common in Hawaii, but if you're looking for something that's large, and it's also on 2 acres, so I mean, just a beautiful luxury home. And it's one of those examples of, this would probably on Maui or Oahu be like a $5 million house, right? So just the value that you get on the Big Island, and it's at a nice elevation. You get those killer sunsets every night and tons of space. So I mean, no neighbors nearby because you got 2 acres. So this is kind of above the airport in Kona, if you're familiar with Kona, but just awesome new build listing, and just clean, white, beautiful. If you're looking for luxury living.
You know what I get about this? Well, first of all, Alex likes it. Yeah, Alex can't beat it, right? Wow, nice, absolutely. I'm with you on that. I think what's cool about this one, and this really illustrates a really cool aspect of Hawaiian architecture, Hawaiian design homes. You look at this huge covered area, right? It's a gigantic covered area, and there may be some drop downs. I'm not too sure. I can't see, but it looks like it's a huge open area. And clearly that part of the home is designed to look at the sunset, right? Giant part covered.
And you get 4,100 square feet is living space. It doesn't count covered lanai space, right? So you probably have another like 1,500 square feet of covered lanai space outside. So that indoor-outdoor living is second to none.
Yeah, second to none. I fully agree, and I think that Jesse also agrees. Definitely a diamond, Jesse. You need to be talking to Dylan and to Heidi and probably Ashley as well while you're at it. Get the right one.
Jesse's on our team over here. She's going to be selling that one. So,
all right. Well, there you go, Jesse. Definitely. Okay. That makes a whole lot of sense. Definitely a diamond. Excellent. Yeah, Jesse, this is the one for you, girl. This is the one for you to sell, or maybe to buy too. Yeah, who knows? All right. Awesome. Great. All right, gang. You guys did a great job. Let's move on. We got a last call here for bring the buyer. That's it. That's the one, folks. If you're looking through this, you're going to be working through Dylan's team. Jesse could help you kind of get a hold of this thing. And let's see. comes with pool plans. What does that mean? Pool plans, like there's like architectural plans for a pool.
Yeah,
Dylan?
to build a
What's that all
pool.
about?
Yeah, so it doesn't have any landscaping yet, and it does have plans if you want to put in a pool. It comes with the designs already.
You know, I don't know about you, but you know, having this kind of a view with a lanai and a pool, I want like a, if it's possible, I want like one of those infinite waterfall, those infinite pools, right? Infinite pool over the sunset. That would be my order. All right, hey, let's close this up, gang. Last chance. If you have any questions, make sure you let us know what they are so we can kind of address them. We're going to move on to our closing thoughts part of the show. If you've got some, I'd love to hear it. You're going to hear some motivational type of things here that we've all put together. Love to hear yours too. Yours are great. Please make sure you send us what they are. And let's start off with Ashley. Ashley, what's your quote for today, and why is it important to you?
Believe in yourself so much that the universe has no choice but to deliver. I think, you know, I don't know if everyone's feeling this, but there's kind of been a heaviness in the air, so to speak. I feel for everyone across the board. And people are just feeling a little bit more defeated for whatever reason that might be. So I just encourage that keep your goals, keep your mindset positive and happy, and just believe in whatever you want in yourself, and what you focus on will expand.
Well said. Yeah, Ashley, I think you're tuning in. There is a well, you know, obviously with this kind of with all the conflict going on in the world, in the Gaza and Ukraine, et cetera, there's you know, protests everywhere, et cetera, a lot of things to kind of be concerned about. So this is a good positive message. Believe in yourself so that the universe has no choice but to deliver. Auntie Joan does not disappoint, brings us her quote, write your life so that others may be illuminated. Joan, where do you come up with this stuff? God bless. That's a great one. Thank you for sharing, Auntie Joan. We really appreciate that. Let's hit the next one here. Heidi, what's yours, and why is it meaningful to you today?
So now is no time to think about what you don't have. It is time to think about what you can do with what there is. This is a great quote about just being resilient in general. I've been working with buyers who lost their home in the fire and are now trying to potentially buy something else as a temporary place to live. And it's just been really important to me to stay grounded and keep in a good mindset of making the best decisions for today, because you can't go back and change, you know, what has already happened.
Yeah, thank you, Heidi. That is a really, you know, I think your Maui experience and kind of what's going on now in Lahaina kind of gives us a very interesting color, and I think it's a great example of doing what you got to do to maintain. And again, now it's, you know, don't think about what you don't have. What can you do with what you've got? So. Amen. And Jesse agrees. Amen to Ashley and Heidi. I couldn't agree more. So thank you, Heidi, for bringing us that perspective. Dylan, what's yours? You're muted.
This is a concept recently that I read that I really like in terms of setting a mindset of gratitude. Right, is focusing on not the gap versus the gain, right? Because a lot of times as humans, we're always like almost related to what Heidi was talking about. Like you're focused on like what you don't have, right, and where you want to go and what your goals are, instead of looking back and reflecting on your progress rather than the destination. And I think that's just an important mindset when you're maybe frustrated or the market is tough, or you know, the challenges that we all face in life. If you just focus on that, it's easy to get frustrated, depressed, and upset. Where if you just look back at a year, 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, and see how far you've come, you'll really put yourself back into a mindset of gratitude. And it's just an important mindset to have when times are challenging. So focus on the gain rather than the gap.
Yeah, you know, I couldn't agree more on that. There was one of the great lines I took from Jordan Peterson. He said, you know, never compare yourself to someone else. You will inevitably, it'll depress you, especially if you follow social media. Never compare yourself, you know, never compare yourself to other people's Instagram posts, right? Never. That is a lose situation. Rather, to what you said, Dylan, compare yourself to where you were last year or last month, or 5 years ago or whatever it is. Compare yourself to you. That's the only fair comparison you get to make, is compare yourself to you. Absolutely do not compare yourself to people's Instagram posts. That will definitely depress the living hell out of you. Because right. Because I mean, and we all know why, right? We all know why. We all know because the only thing you post on Instagram are those perfect moments that you want to share with the world, right? You're in the most amazing place. You're in the most amazing restaurant. There are people, I guess, who share like very depressing Instagram posts, and I would think that those are there too. But those don't get a whole lot of likes. So,
I know, we're like, be more real and authentic, and then they share something real and authentic. We're like, ew, don't share your stuff.
Don't show that. What are you showing that for?
The best are the friends that write the really gushy like anniversary posts or their spouse posts, and then when you see them, they want to get divorced. It's like, well, did you just put on Instagram they're like the best husband ever or the best wife ever, and then now you're like, So, anyways, definitely false. There's a lot of false advertising on Instagram for sure.
Yeah, we could riff on that one for a little bit longer. I think well here. I mean, we've all read those posts where someone is like majorly depressed and they're really thing and you read it's like, man, just don't post that, man. Don't put that on there. Why do you do that? Right? But we don't think about that when it's like, oh, hey, look at me. I'm here with, movie star X, or hey, look at me. I'm here at this amazing restaurant. Hey, wow, look at this amazing thing that we're doing, that you're not. Here's a great party that we're at that you're not. It's like, somehow we like that. I don't know. Someone's going to figure that one out psychologically. All right. Okay. My turn. Of course, it's going to be Proverbs. And I thought this one was really interesting to me. A miserly man hastens after wealth and does not know that want will come upon him. I thought that was really, really insightful. It's like, in other words, if you're the miserly, if you're pursuing wealth, you really don't recognize really that it's just going to create even more want. It's the wrong thing to pursue. To pursue wealth for its own sake is just going to lead to more want. In other words, almost what Heidi said. It's like, if you're focusing on what you don't have, right? So you're going after the wealth, you're going to have the want will increase even more. And I thought that was a really amazing insight. I love Proverbs, 2,500 years, 3,000-year-old things that are just as true, were just as true back then as they are today. How that could be is amazing. All right, gang. I think that's it. We're gonna see you all in a couple of weeks. We do have a comment over here. Hold on a second. We're gonna back up here, right over here. Great comment there, Jesse. Blessed to be on Dylan's team. I would agree. I'm not on Dylan's team, but I feel like I'm on Dylan's team. Nice, great comment there, Jesse. Appreciate it. Okay, great. All right, why don't we do this? Let's say goodbye. Let's do a clockwise. Heidi, Dylan, and then Ashley. Say goodbye.
Aloha, everybody. Happy Veterans Day, and have a great weekend. Take care.
Yeah, aloha, everybody. Happy Marine Corps birthday. Have an awesome weekend.
Aloha, everyone. Happy Veterans Day. Have a blessed weekend.
Enjoy your Veterans Holiday. Recognize our veterans for the amazing things that they do for our country. And enjoy. And a quick shout out to Jesse, who said great scripture. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. And Alex, who's saying have a great weekend. All right, folks. Aloha.